live.
Hello, everybody. Thank you
Hold
for
for
coming.
a second. We got to wait for the room to fill for a minute.
Oh.
Hello, everyone. We're just waiting for the rooms to fill. Thanks for joining us. Right, over to you.
So hello, everybody, and welcome to our third official press conference. Much like the previous two, we're going to follow the same format. The rules are no fake news industry. We want real reporters who want to ask real questions, want to engage, and don't want to engage in activism. So thank you for all of you who have joined us here. It's disappointing we had to throw CTV out, but that's what they get for pushing you around, right? This is going to be a long format press conference. There's no limitations, no time constraints. You can ask whatever question you want. We don't know the answer, we'll tell you we don't know. If we know the answer, we'll tell you what the answer is. Simple, right? Like the way things should be, right? So hopefully all of this is an exercise in teaching the fake news industry what news is. And we thank you for all of you for participating in that, okay? Just a couple of comments we want to start with. One is the status of how things are now. The morale of people on the ground hasn't changed much, as you've noticed. People are upbeat. Spoke to a couple of truckers last night when I was hobbling to one of the meetings, and he was getting a kick out of me trying to navigate the ice. But spoke to him about his truck. He had the same truck as I have, so but he's good spirits. Everybody's happy, and I think part of it is because they're actually seeing the result of change. Even though I put on Twitter hashtag nothing to do with truckers, we know it all has something to do with truckers, and we're seeing our provincial leaders trying to sit on the fence like they always do, but moving a little bit more towards our side as public sentiment has been changing. That's good. We've seen changes in the political landscape. We have a lot of people within the political sphere that have been quietly making overtures to us. We're the hottest topic on Parliament Hill, which is great, that all of these hardworking Canadians are getting the attention that they deserve, which is what this is all about. And the last speech I gave on Parliament Hill, I addressed something I want to talk about here very quickly, which is the Liberal MPs that still hold office are in caucus. And I just want to ask them again, is this what you signed up for? Did you sign up to be an embarrassment to the entire world? Did you sign up to prop up a guy who wore blackface in a time where even I knew as a little kid? Just watch Mississippi Burning. You know how offensive and insulting that is, right? Yet he gets away with it. It makes no sense. And we're in this historical moment of Canada. It's amazing. We're all unified. Whether you're from Quebec, you're from Alberta, Saskatchewan, it doesn't matter. All the political baggage that we've grown up with, it's all gone. Everybody's realizing it's the media and the political class that's creating it. And tell this story where a couple of days ago, we went to Tim Hortons, of course, we're Canadian, to get coffee in the morning. And there were these two truck drivers, clearly know each other. They're hanging out and they're friends and talking, whatever. But with one difference. They were using Google Translate on their phones because one was French and one was from Alberta, and they couldn't understand each other. So they would, translate, and they're joking and laughing and ha ha ha, whatever. It was a beautiful moment, and we've seen a lot of that. We've seen people, I mentioned a few times, I've seen this many times where people are, the first day they'd have a sign. One guy has a sign that says Freedom, and his new friend has a sign that says Liberté, and they're just hanging out together. So I went up, had a picture taken with them. That's sort of like, it's amazing. This is what Canada Day is supposed to be. This is what Canada is supposed to be about. So we're at this amazing moment in our history where all the baggage seems to be subsiding, and we're respecting the cultural differences of all of us. Like last night I had a 2-hour-long meeting with a couple of native tribes, right? And the clanswomen of these tribes. It was amazing. Yeah, we want to help, we support you. You know, there are some complications in our communities, but we're looking forward to unifying. So you have natives, you have Quebecers, you have Albertans, like everybody is becoming Canadian. So I ask the Liberal MPs who are propping up this embarrassment, is this what you signed up for, to crush this? What happened to Liberals all being about the people unifying and protesting together? That's the whole essence of what liberal philosophy is. But they've abandoned it. For what? For a cult of personality? Is that the legacy they want to leave for their kids? I reach out to you and I just want you to think about, what does it mean to be a representative of your people? What are your constituents going to think in the next election? Now, yeah, you were the ones that crushed that great freedom and unity movement that Canada has never had. Imagine that. There's some particular people that we see culturally in Canada, the US, and now globally, because of the internet, we live in this global world. We all talk about often Jordan Peterson, that he has become, you know, the essence of a man, like he's larger than life. But there's two other people, at least for me, that have been powerful voices. One is Professor Stephen Hicks, and the other is Professor Gad Saad. Stephen Hicks is probably the most prominent professor who has researched for decades postmodernism. That's who Jordan Peterson is often referencing when he talks about postmodernism. He's usually referencing Stephen Hicks's work explaining postmodernism. This is the underlying philosophy of people like Justin Trudeau. This is why they're not liberal. They may have a liberal banner that they trot around, but that's a brand. It's not the ideology of these people. The ideology is postmodernism, which is very, very dangerous. And the other one is Gad Saad, who is hilarious on Twitter. But he's a brilliant man. And he's got a book out right now, The Parasitic Mind. I suggest everybody read it, because that explains how this philosophy of postmodernism has spread into all our institutions of government. This is why you see some of the ridiculousness that's going on in decisions in our institutions, in various bureaus. It's all that the proliferation of this philosophy, and he talks about the tools that's used. So everybody, go to Amazon.com and order The Parasitic Mind. I'm telling you, it's a brilliant read. And Gad loves to talk about it, so go to his channel. It's the type of wisdom that we need to get into the mindset of the people who right now are still watching the fake news industry, the propaganda industry. Gad's book and Stephen Hicks's book and that sort of knowledge is the antidote to that. And we understand why people do. People are busy raising their kids, they got to work, they got lots of things going on in their lives. But now we have the internet. You can turn off the fake news media and go on to the internet and find a variety of different sources, which is one of the conversations I've had with the Conservative Party this week behind the scenes, and one other party that's not what you would think they are, is to explain to them that they need to start paying attention to alternative media, because it dwarfs all of mainstream media. So this is why there's such a disconnected messaging, because all the political parties are doing is they're watching CTV, CBC, all this stuff that I haven't watched in maybe a decade. Same for the print publications. But they're not getting what all of us are engaged in and what you all work in, which is alternative media. You know, when one podcast dwarfs all of mainstream media combined, there's a problem. When a creator like PewDiePie dwarfs all global mainstream media combined with one video, there's a problem. And the problem is they don't have any credibility, and that's why they're not here. The next thing I want to move into is the status of where we're at with funding, GoFundMe, what happened, all that sort of stuff. So God bless, and this is not being politically partisan, but the voices of people like Ted Cruz, Ron DeSantis, the Attorney General of Florida, several others have now spoken out since GoFundMe stole our money. Sorry, they didn't steal our money, they stole your money. You all wanted to donate, wanted your voice to be heard, and GoFundMe stole that from you. Now, luckily, we have this other platform, Give, Send, Go, that stepped up to the plate, reached out to us. We communicated directly with Jacob, the CEO, and he was wonderful. He said, I'm not backing down, I'm going to support you. We set it up, and the very first day, they got 5 million DDoS attacks per hour. So somebody was heavily motivated to try to censor us. I don't know if it was Silicon Valley, if it was foreign entities, who knows, we don't know. But at the same time as all these DDoS attacks that they were getting, they were overwhelmed with requests to donate. They ran out of bandwidth, their servers couldn't handle it, and even with that, like I couldn't even see the page for 7 hours. Yet somehow, we processed $1.5 million in donations in the first day. I think now, I checked earlier today, like early in the morning, it was $7.5 million on Give, Send, Go.
You did us a huge favor. A lot of the messages that I saw were, well, I'm going to double my donation to Give, Send, Go now. Or I didn't donate to the GoFundMe, but I'm definitely donating now. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. So, for everybody who had your voice stolen by GoFundMe, you should feel solace that there is now alternatives. And this is the whole point of the free market. This is why we need alternatives for everything. We need to stop this move towards centralization of everything. When we were initially banned by GoFundMe, as you know, GoFundMe decided what we're going to do is we're just going to keep your money. We're going to send it to whoever we want, whichever charity we want. And we all can guess which charities those would be. Charities. Luckily, because of Governor DeSantis, I think he was the first one to be really vocal about it and say we need an inquiry because this is fraud and theft, which is exactly what it is. Those wheels are in motion, and I believe a bill was submitted to the House, or a request for an investigation was submitted to the House. So that is ongoing, and that is now GoFundMe's problem to deal with. But when that was happening, I put a tweet out to the Bitcoin community, and I said, just very subtly, perhaps this is the time where we should look at Bitcoin as an alternative. For a bunch of reasons, and we're not going to get too technical with it. I'm a techie, and it took me a year to figure out how to use it and to be comfortable with it. Okay, but I was shocked how quickly I started getting messages from some of the most prominent Bitcoiners in the world, some big players in the space, saying we're here to help you. This is the whole principal philosophy of what Bitcoin is freedom and self-sovereignty in terms of monetary policy. And what they did is, and we'll get back to you and remember the original messages, maybe 2 days later, 3 days later, a Tally coin drive was set up. That's the equivalent of GoFundMe, but for Bitcoin. Same idea. You got a progress bar, you have a goal, all that sort of stuff. Last I checked, and I think it's been 5 days. I have to check when Ben set it up initially. But last I checked this morning, it was at $812 million. Sorry, $812,000.
Wow.
Yeah. That would be great.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, we're not there. We'll get there.
That's the goal.
Yes. It's at $812,000. And they set it up with a request that this be a legal war chest, both defensive and offensive. Because if all these smear merchants don't think I've been reading everything they've been saying about us, and I know every word they've said, it's all been funneled and aggregated into a database. So we're going to get very aggressive with certain people in both the media and in government that have been attacking us. This stops. We cannot have a society like this, where everybody is always attacking people, making up stories, smearing, all baseless stuff. You know, I'm a white supremacist, apparently. I'm Jewish. I have families that are buried in mass graves in Europe, but I'm a white supremacist. This garbage stops. And the media is going to learn a very harsh lesson about this. It's over. And what they're going to learn is they're no longer relevant. It's you guys that are taking over. The independent, individual journalist is going to have a voice, and that's going to be the future. And hopefully, they will reset themselves. Now, that's not all legacy media. As you may have seen, I've been doing some legacy media. I speak to them before I get an idea that, and they don't have to agree with us, they just have to be objective. And the ones that have been objective, we've done a little bit of media here and there. But primarily, this is the time for independent media to shine. So.
Yeah, they just have to not be bullies and be respectful, right? Which is why you guys are here.
That's right.
Telling the truth would be nice too.
That would be a huge bonus.
Yeah. Do you want to discuss just anything regarding Bitcoin, just a generalization?
Well, I'd maybe like to provide a couple of highlights on some important legal points. We were in court again on Monday. You recall that I was in court on Saturday. Haven't had a lot of sleep since I've been here. I'm coming on a week now having been here. I don't want sympathy because all of these folks have been here longer than me. But a couple of very important things happened in the injunction application. First is, as an olive branch, I was able to advise the court in the morning, or that morning, the truckers had agreed to stop using their air horns. And the truckers stopped using their air horns. They did it because they thought it was a kind gesture. We didn't need a court order ordering them to stop using their horns. They did it because it was time to stop using the air horns. So there is a temporary 10-day injunction telling the truckers they can't use their air horns. That's fine. But very importantly, during the 3 or 4 hour proceeding before Justice McLean in the Superior Court of Ontario, Justice McLean is one of the most senior judges on the bench in terms of years on the bench. He was crystal clear in a number of instances during the hearing that these truckers have a lawful right to be here to protest. They have a lawful right of free expression, both under common law, which predates our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and most clearly under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And whenever counsel for the other party tried to suggest anything otherwise, he would have none of it. He was counsel. They have the right to be here. They have the right to peaceful protest. They have the right under the Charter and at common law, and it's not in dispute. So that's important. I'd also like to clarify, some politicians have been throwing around this dangerous term of sedition and insurrection. At no time has anyone involved in the core group of the Freedom Convoy asked for anything other than their charter rights to be restored, the rule of law in Canada to be respected, and the mandates that arbitrarily discriminate against them and usurp their charter rights be stopped. There's some elements out there with different agendas talking about some fantasy of the Governor General striking the government and magically appointing a committee. It's all fairy dust. It has no basis in reality, and it's nothing that any of this group that I work for has ever suggested, nor do they suggest now. Their goal is for all Canadians to have their rights back. Full stop. They recognize there's a democratic process through which government change occurs. It's called elections. full stop. They understand that there's a couple of things that trigger elections. Okay, one is a non-confidence vote on a money bill in Parliament. That will trigger, traditionally, under our parliamentary tradition, an election. Or the Prime Minister has the right to summon the Governor General and drop the writ. That's it. No more. So this spin by some of the mainstream media that somehow those involved in this Freedom Convoy are seeking more than what I've described is completely inaccurate. With respect to Bitcoin, what we've witnessed here, what the world has witnessed here, is the power of government to manipulate the flows of people's hard-earned dollars to advance a government's objectives and to seek to defeat the will of individuals in their democratic process. And I have been following Bitcoin very closely. It's a decentralized platform for people to exchange their hard-earned value with someone else for theirs. And it bypasses the constraints and arbitrary controls of government. This is the perfect example of why fiat currency is in trouble. I think those who depend on it for their power know it and didn't think this through, much in the same way that the police chief who brags about stopping the GoFundMe funds didn't think it through, because he's likely going to double the amount that people, freedom-loving people, have donated. And the ongoing steps that they are taking to freeze accounts and all these other things will just drive more and more people to Bitcoin in a way that has never happened in our current time. It's decentralized. You don't need the government's permission to do it. It's verified. The government can't grab it. It is a merging of money and democracy.
The other thing I just wanted to say is you called them mainstream media. That's wrong. Legacy media. There's nothing,
Yeah, I
they're
misspoke.
fringe media.
Misspoke. I'm running on 2 hours.
Just want to make sure that's correct. All right.
Thank you.
We do also have somebody here from the Bitcoin community who reached out to me and helped out. Nick was tremendous in getting this started and helping us go down this journey of giving the alternative of Bitcoin. So we have now the Give, Send, Go. I've been working all night. Last night, in the middle of the day yesterday, we started. Dave Rubin reached out to us to set us up on Locals, and they will be collecting donations for us as well. So you'll have the Give, Send, Go, you'll have the Freedom Convoy on Locals, which also will have a Bitcoin address that you'll be able to access and donate to. And then we'll have the Tallycoin link that I've been posting on our Twitter, our social media, and we'll be putting that as well in Locals. So I think we're hedged against any future censorship. And just a word on that, I think I mentioned it before. People have asked, why is there no centralized, Freedom Convoy Twitter account? Well, because anytime we do anything on those platforms, they get deleted, right? We had that problem. You were blocked from Facebook this week. Yeah. So that's why we've been using our personal accounts and the hashtag system to get the word out. This probably would have been much bigger if we didn't have to deal with censorship. I think a decentralized internet in the future will correct this. This is only a temporary time in our history. But that's just the nature of things, how they are right now. And I think we all see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I want to invite Nick to say a few comments about Bitcoin. I mean, I've been in the space for many years, but he is an expert. He's a Bitcoin podcaster. Yes.
Just for those who joined the live stream late, could you all introduce yourself and your involvement with the Freedom Convoy, real quick?
Tamara Leach, organizer.
Keith Wilson, lead counsel for the Freedom Convoy.
She is actually the president of Freedom Convoy. She's so modest. I'm the VP and spokesperson. Okay. Nick, so anyways, so yeah, back to what I was saying. So I've been in space for a while, but people like Nick are really well-versed beyond the level. That, when he said, yeah, we set up a multi-sig wallet, and I'm like, okay, I kind of know what that is. We'll have to spend a few hours on, and they were great. They sat me down, some of the most prominent Bitcoiners on YouTube, educational Bitcoiners, sat me down, and can I say their names or no? So
I would hold on.
Okay,
Just
so let
I
me
haven't confirmed with them.
Yeah, okay, fine. But they were wonderful. We sat down on Skype. They kind of walked me through it. We did all the setup. This is the wallet address that will go to the company. It's a multi-person authentication, just like having a bank account where a multitude of people have to sign off on transactions. So it's completely secure. Thank you. It was wonderful. But I want to bring Nick up to really ask, to talk about it from a more technical level, not too much, because my parents are watching and they're boomers, and they're into Bitcoin, so it's not, you know. And then we'll start a Q&A session about absolutely anything you want. Okay? Is that fair?
That works.
You want to grab a seat there?
Do you want us to stay? 'Cause we got that
You wanna
You
talk
have
about
the meeting now?
Yeah.
Okay, get out.
Sorry guys, we got to go
Give
to
me a
another meeting, but we were glad to be able to give you this time, and thank you for being here and doing what you do.
All right.
I'll stay longer next time. Thanks, you guys.
Come. Welcome to my couch.
We got a roomy kid. All right, hello friends. My name's Nick. I'm the Bitcoin team lead for the Freedom Convoy. I've been on the ground here since this first started. I'm a local in Ottawa, so this fell into my backyard. I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I am a liaison to the experts in the Bitcoin world and serve to connect the Freedom Convoy to the Bitcoin community so that we can meet the objective of being able to fund these truckers fighting for our freedom without being shackled by the censorship that's put in place in our legacy financial system. So I'm helping to coordinate the effort. Keith did a great job at talking about some of the benefits of Bitcoin. I have 15 minutes that I'd like to go through, and I really want to go through this to clarify 3 main points. Why did we choose Bitcoin? How is the Bitcoin going to be put to use in terms of our best understanding of this right now? And then I'd like to just talk briefly about the importance of freedom money that we're starting to understand on a world stage. For Twitter, Bitcoin Freedom Convoy. Let's start that hashtag so that we can get people being able to find where these conversations are happening. And I just want to say that although I'm the team lead, I'm coordinating a team of very high-level advanced Bitcoiners, both in the technology side, strategy side, and a ground team who's actually going to truckers and peer-to-peer sending them Bitcoin after helping them set up a wallet. So we're also regularly consulting with Bitcoiners on Twitter to make sure that we have everyone in the community pitching in at this effort, because it really is a global effort. And if you want to see pictures of on-the-ground reality that is unfiltered, I am Nobody Caribou on Twitter. So the first thing is why Bitcoin? Why do we use Bitcoin? Right? Why didn't we use Canadian dollars? Why didn't we use traditional conventional funding platforms? And I think part of that's already been answered by BJ. We have a really clear financial objective for the Freedom Convoy, and that is to receive global donations from individuals who want to support the convoy in their stand for freedom. And we need to be able to do that without any obstruction. And so, as we've learned from GoFundMe, when you use a third-party platform to receive funds from donors, it creates a critical vulnerability through censorship. And whether that's the company itself or whether that's governments or municipalities pressuring those companies, it can put things in jeopardy. And what we're learning is that even if we use a third-party donation platform that isn't a choke point and won't censor us, the Canadian banking system is actually also a critical vulnerability because of the government control. So if we open a bank account there is still Big Brother that can go there and have that shut down.
Can I just interrupt?
Yes.
Just as a side note, and by way of example, part of the problem we were having at the initial setup with GoFundMe, when they released $1 million to us, that's all they gave us. Of the 10.1, we got 1. It went into our bank, TD Bank, by the way, and then they froze it. So here we are, drivers asking us, I need supplies, I need money, I need fuel, my DPF filter just failed, whatever it is, and now the bank has just decided, no, we're freezing your money. We ended up, working out a deal. Our lawyer stepped in and took possession under trust and all that sort of stuff. But just because the money's given to you doesn't mean your bank also can't turn it off. And it's not like they didn't know what we were up to, right? It was international news. So, anyways.
Yeah, no, that's an important point. And so for those unfamiliar with Bitcoin, as BJ mentioned, we all have to go down our own learning journeys to understand this. I think fundamentally, people don't understand money, and you have to understand money before you start to try and understand Bitcoin. So I'll give some resources at the end of this. But for those unfamiliar with it, it's a global financial network that is uncensorable, permissionless, and when you custody it properly, it's unconfiscatable. And these are the 3 primary variables that are most relevant for us right now based on the challenges that we've faced so far. I won't say more about Bitcoin, but what I want to do is to show the power of this technology. I'd like to share a couple of the messages that our donors that are attached to the donations we're receiving from the world, because I think these actually demonstrate the power of Bitcoin very potently. Sipping a coffee and making my daily donation. Who will join me? Honk honk. That was for 2,324 sats, which is $1.27 Canadian. Go Truckers, thanks for fighting for my freedom. 200 sats, 11 cents Canadian. America is next, Tucker told me so. 25,096 sats, 13,700 Canadian equivalent. The sat streaming shall continue until the freedom improves. 105 sats, 5 cents. Just watched Ottawa police bullying a peaceful citizen. Hope this helps with the lawsuit. 69.42 sats, $3.80 Canadian. So I think those really show the true power of this platform. I even saw a message from a doctor in Nigeria who sent sats to support freedom. He did so without asking anyone permission. It could not be stopped. And he basically did it for free. A fraction of a penny is what it cost him to send that. This is a technology that can do things that Visa network and platforms like GoFundMe cannot. And so we've got over 4,400 donations made. I'll mention a few countries that these donations have come from, just to show that this is actually a global movement, right? This is not Canadians and Americans. Finland, USA, Denmark, UK, Belarus, Switzerland, Norway, Nigeria, Spain, Ireland, Croatia, Australia, Nepal, South Africa, India, Ecuador, and then I stopped writing. So that gives you an idea of the true power that we're harnessing with this and why it's important. You can follow Honk Honk Hodl, H-O-D-L, on Twitter. That has a link to the tally coin, and you can view all the messages yourself. Everything is transparent, everything coming in is shown, and it's pretty powerful. And that's what makes Bitcoin an effective tool and why we're using it. I want to talk about how the Bitcoin will be used, and I think it's important to give some context. So I've been on the ground speaking to truckers and volunteers every day since this started. I've connected with several teams of people who provide me information about fuel, food, water, what actions police are taking. So I have a fairly good pulse on what's needed on the ground. And there's several categories of support that are needed by the truckers, right? You have things like food, water, diesel, everything I mentioned, accommodation, sanitation services, all these things. A big one that we're learning is legal protection. All of these things can get thrown at us. Most of them are unlawful and are frivolous, but it creates friction. And so this whole idea of being able to create a legal shield funded by the world of Bitcoiners to protect these truckers as they legally take a stand for freedom and exercise their charter right becomes a very powerful thing. So the Give, Send, Go is going to help provide materials to the convoy and essentially make disbursements so that these truckers have the cost of their journeys covered. And Bitcoin provides this extra monetary energy that we can determine where it needs to be allocated, and we can do these things quickly, make these decisions quickly and on the fly as we see it needed. So our current strategy, and I should also say that the situation in Ottawa is very dynamic. Every hour things change, every day things change, and so where we aim this monetary pool changes along with the situation. And so what I say now may not hold true based on actions that might happen today, tomorrow, the next day, but this is the best we know right now. The ground team, we have a ground team sending truckers sats directly. Someone will go in, help a trucker set up a Bitcoin wallet on their phone, and send them a bit of Bitcoin. Not very much, but enough to get them started and see the power of this technology. Hiring lawyers to form a legal shield, both defensively and offensively, to avoid some of the attacks we've been facing is another big one. And as things begin to change in the right direction, and as we see all these dominoes falling, and perhaps the legal action might not be as necessary, we also have the option to create something like a Bitcoin endowment for truckers. And just to give you an idea, nothing like this has been confirmed, and we're going to do this the Bitcoin way. I'm a Bitcoiner. I know what Bitcoiners would want to know and what is fair for them to know, so that in full transparency they see what's being done in real time. I think it's only fair that the donors be able to receive this information. But creating a fund that over time sends every trucker who contributed to this Freedom Convoy portions of Bitcoin every month until the endowment is liquidated completely, which could take years, becomes a very powerful way to show these truckers the appreciation for the sacrifices they've made and be able to really harness the power of Bitcoin, because that can actually be done. I'm almost done. I'm sorry if this is boring, but I think the Bitcoin, I represent the Bitcoin community and the Freedom Convoy. This is information Bitcoiners need to know to really get behind this, because I think we're just getting started. So we've talked about the legal side, the endowment side, sending truckers Bitcoin peer-to-peer from person to person right away to show the magic of this. And what I will say is that every transaction that's done will be fully documented and transparent so that everyone knows what is happening in real time. I want to talk about two more things. First one is why freedom money is important. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, BJ, because I think this is something that few realize but are realizing more and more. And then lastly, I just want to talk about some more technical details and considerations for the Bitcoin community. So to all the boomers out there, maybe plug your ears. It won't take long, I promise.
I know boomer Bitcoiners, so.
Perfect. There you go. Bitcoin is for everyone. Bitcoin is for truckers, plumbers, janitors, lawyers. Bitcoin is for the millions, not for the millionaires. And I think we all need to remember that as we go through this. So why does freedom money matter? Well, I think this movement that's going on right now has transcended the truckers, has transcended Ottawa, and has even transcended Canada. If we're observing what's going on around the world and emerging independently of this, but inspired by this. This is the frontline battle for freedom. And the fact that we have a global community of people who stand behind freedom, financial freedom, and they can support this in a way that can't be stopped, I think is very powerful. And right now, the priority here and the mission is physical freedom, right? Like get our Charter of Rights restored. But I think that the momentum we're gaining from this can be used to push for what I think is the most important form of freedom, the most fundamental freedom, and that is freedom from financial censorship. Individual, collective, all the above, right? We've faced a ton of that so far with GoFundMe and the government, and I think, you know, we're not truly free until we remove the control that politicians have over our money. And we can use this opportunity to educate truckers, Canadians, and the world about the importance of returning to a sound money standard and not digging ourselves into a debt that our kids are going to have to pay. Right? The politicians that are doing this now aren't going to be around when these debts have to be repaid, but they've been unhinged in creating mass amounts of money and giving the bill to the people that step in next. And I think this is a good opportunity to show what's going on and to help put an end to it. So financial freedom's the final boss. We're hitting physical freedom and the Charter of Rights right now, but I think this momentum can continue. Any thoughts on freedom money?
I mean, you don't have to sell me on freedom.
Yeah, exactly.
We've all sacrificed a little bit. I think let's open it up to everybody's questions.
Sure.
And that may come about. I mean, thank you. I think you've really explained it on a base level that everybody understands. It can get quite complicated. And if you do end up going on that Bitcoin journey, don't get intimidated. It's confusing in the beginning, and then it just becomes like second nature.
I'll say the technical stuff for a Bitcoin podcast I'm doing later. That's probably a better idea. But what I will say is that we are being very careful and very meticulous because we know there's a fundamental trade-off with Bitcoin. We need to protect the privacy of the people who donated, we also need to protect the privacy of the people who are going to be receiving these funds. And so it's a fine line to walk. We're going to be consulting the Bitcoin community regularly on Twitter so that we can get everyone's input out in the open and fully transparent to figure out the best way to do this. And we have an amazing team. The Bitcoin team is very generous. The Bitcoin team is very talented and very smart. And however the funds end up being used, it's going to be a powerful way to show that the world is thanking these truckers for holding the line for the world, and to show people the power of Bitcoin. So yeah, I'm done.
All right, just to moderate questions, if you put your hand up, you can have a question and then a follow-up.
Do you mind just how do you spell your name?
N-I-C-K.
Also, don't worry so much about question and follow-up.
Okay.
This is open. We
Okay.
can have dialogue back and forth. No constraints. I'll stay here till 8 o'clock at night if I have to. But somebody's got to feed me some Tylenol before then. So. Yes.
So with the media narrative now talking about Ottawa under siege, the insurrection, we just spoke with Dr. Nagase at West. He told me that what he's seeing on the news, mainstream legacy media, is that the situation looks like it's a morale killer for the truckers because of the negative publicity that's happening. What is really the morale of the truckers right now?
I mean, you see the opposite on the ground. And I give you the example of the truckers I spoke with on my way to the meeting last night when I was hobbling around. And yeah, maybe I primed them by looking ridiculous on crutches. But they were great. They were, yeah, we're here. The thing is, people understand truckers are, it's a different lifestyle. You have to be really patient. It's so heavily regulated in terms of ELDs, DOTs, and the fact that these people are, most of them are small business owners, right? So, you know, when I talk to the government putting its boot on the throat of small business owners, well, those are the truckers. And, you know, I'll give it by way of an example. I was sent to a call last month or whatever it was. I think it was Amazon. Oh my God, they're so disorganized. They have no idea what they're doing. But I ended up sitting there for 30 hours for something that should have been 5 minutes. You get used to it, right? You have a Wi-Fi in the truck. You basically have a house attached to you. I opened up my laptop, started editing podcasts for a couple of days, and we're kind of used to that. So if they think, like, I think the government is drastically, in the media, drastically underestimating the resolve and patience of truckers. They are extremely patient, and no offense to the rest of you, but we see how you drive. It requires patience on our part.
I think I could probably say two things, only because I speak to truckers every day. One couple, or they're a young husband and wife, and they've been here every day since I've been here. They're having a great time. They sent me a text message the other day and said, I can't believe I can go without a mask in a restaurant in my province. They're from Alberta. So they are seeing the dominoes falling. They are getting re-energized. Another trucker I talked to, I said, you know, how are you doing? He's like, I'm shaved, I'm showered, I got a full belly, it's a beautiful day. That was his reply. So I don't think people actually realize what's happening on the ground, and the fact that as these dominoes start to fall, and as these very resilient humans who are getting so much love and support keep seeing these things, the true things that are happening, and actually go outside and see all the smiles and love and have people coming up to their truck saying, please do not leave, my kids depend on this. If you think that some lies on the media are going to stop those people, you should come down here and see for yourself, because I think it's very different.
And also, you see all these kids walking around with signs like, thank you truckers for saving me. Like, I mean, this was just 3 weeks ago, it was just a regular job. Now they've become the heroes of Canada. Every kid I talk to, and there's lots of them, I've asked them, you gonna be a trucker when you grow up? Yeah, I'm gonna be a trucker, right? Now, maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I've joked many times that we're solving the supply chain issue for the future, right? They're all motivated by it. It's great.
Yeah, and it seemed that on the weekend there was jubilation in the streets. It was the cross between all the flags, Canada Day and a World Cup win for Team Canada.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. Now, what about the police officers? They're here on the ground. They're seeing how people are being respectful, cleaning up the city. there's no one being terrorized. Do you think any of the police are starting to be awakened to what's really happening and question the narrative?
Well, yesterday there was a staff sergeant for Ottawa Police who resigned. And for those of us who are not in policing, that is a significant, that's like your CEO resigning company. I have family in policing, as many people in the trucking industry do. And they're great on the ground level, but this has been a problem in policing for decades, since all these police services boards were established, and the political parties get their friends in politics appointed to the police boards. So now you have, your part of your police brass, they're all politicized, but everybody below that, they're very much in support of us, and we're very sympathetic to the fact that they're put in a difficult position because they understand we're fighting for their freedom and autonomy, but they have some politicized jerk above them who wants to be the next Liberal MP who's making political decisions. It's quite disgusting. I've heard about it for years. That's not a problem that's going to be solved by this protest or in the near future. But I'm hoping that becomes an issue in future elections, and that we will have leaders that look at these police service boards and say it's time to take that model and chuck it and allow police to be police again.
Thank you.
Could you say anything to those who are concerned about safety, who haven't been privy, like walking the streets of Ottawa? What's the morale like for these truckers? Can you give some context to those who haven't seen it?
I mean, you're surrounded by families. Like, we're getting so many messages now of people saying, I'm in Vancouver, I'm on my way to Ottawa this weekend. Or, I'm in Northern Ontario, whatever. Thousands of them. And I'm bringing my kids. We're going to go to the bouncy castle on Parliament Hill. We want to hear you guys speak. It's becoming a festival. So, I don't know if you're afraid of a festival. I don't know what to tell you. But the vibe is great. Everybody's helping each other. I think the crime statistics that came out showed that crime has plummeted since the truckers are here. And yeah, I don't know if you're afraid of that, then I don't know, stay home and put a mask on.
Yeah, if you're afraid of hugs and dance parties and free food,
yeah,
and
exactly.
kids who actually get to play with other kids, you definitely shouldn't come.
Oh yeah, and I've been told food has been plentiful. A couple of my guys came back, at the end of the day, and we're having a meeting. I'm like, you hungry? They go, no. Everybody's been giving me food all day. Everybody's having a barbecue. One guy in the back of his truck. I'm like, okay, fine. So yeah, it's been great.
From the perspective of because I come here and I try and be an observer instead of I spend time talking to people, but I try and observe. And what I get a pulse of is that the energy each week has a flow. On the weekend, it goes crazy high.
Yeah.
Tons of people migrate. It's very loud. It's very action-packed. And then as the week goes on, it comes into a lull, and then it goes up again the next weekend. And Wednesday is the most calm day. What I'm realizing is that is necessary because the truckers, to the weekend energy level, cannot be sustainable. And so the weekdays are when they reorganize. I'm watching these little micro communities essentially pop up. Families will come, they'll bring trailers, they'll bring barbecues. You get these little hubs of people who are having communal meals together, right? This is like accelerated healing of people connecting, being so happy just to speak to someone and see their face. So the midweek is like we recalibrate, regroup, we recharge. The truckers get some rest, it's calmer, and they get ready for the next weekend. And every weekend, the peak energy level and the amount of people flooding in gets bigger and bigger.
And there's people who are forming new friendships, like I gave the example of the trucks. There are people who are falling in love. People are meeting each other because it's not just men are here, it's everybody from society is here. And maybe we'll make a baby boom. I don't know, that would be great.
Freedom boom.
We saw recently, since the mayor of Ottawa had declared the state of emergency, now supplying truck with gas and as well fuel. It's now illegal action. What is your action plan to provide them at least some fuel and gas and to protect them against that?
So a couple of things there. So first, the fuel that has been seized, I got to get confirmation of this because we were just having a meeting about it. Apparently it's being returned. That was not a good look for Ottawa Police. And, you know, I suggest to Ottawa Police that not only, as we've explained repeatedly over and over again, we're peaceful, we're just families, we're hanging out, but this is such a huge opportunity for policing globally, where the radical left has been maligning police officers, defund the police, they're all bigots, they're all racist, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Here's the opportunity to actually show they're part of the community and they're going to work with the community and we're going to work with them. We're not at odds with each other. The job of the police is to protect the community. But if there's no threat and we're part of the community and yeah, okay, we're parked illegally. Oh well, that's not exactly going to you know, cause society to collapse, sort of thing. You know, does that make sense?
So one of the teams that I talk to every day, I get a brief from them every morning, says there are no trucks not getting fuel. And I posted something on my Twitter because I thought it was brilliant. I don't know if everyone's seen the Thomas Crown affair, but basically to avoid getting spotted, they put the same hat on everyone. And there's a video of the day after it was claimed by the police that you are not allowed to bring jerry cans. I think they should be called Ffreedom cans now. Downtown, there are dozens and dozens of people having 2 jerry cans, Ffreedom cans in each hand, and it's brilliant. So nobody caribou's my Twitter. Just go there to watch this because it is poetic beauty. And what I saw firsthand was groups of people bringing these fuel cans up to truckers, walking right beside police, and nothing was done. So I think once again, what gets said by the top brass, what gets enforced by honorable individuals who are wearing uniforms, very different. You'll see a lot of this. You won't see a lot of this, but if you're on the ground, the bottom, the enforcement level dignity that officers are showing, saying, I'm not gonna enforce this because it's not the right thing to do. You're gonna see more and more of that as officers are having to make more and more obvious choices. And I can tell you, trucks are being fueled. Canadian citizens are taking a beautiful stand to say, you can't stop this. And so there's really, the fuel is not actually a concern.
And also, if you've noticed, Mayor Watson, who we've named now Punk Watson, came out with a statement yesterday that it's time for the government to step up to the plate and start negotiating with the truckers. So once again, people ask about morale when they see that, okay, they're finally realizing we're not adversarial, we're here to talk, and that is the best direction for them, the best course of action. I think you're going to see that happen over time.
And do you have any new development on the negotiation with the government?
No. No updates yet. But when there is, we'll let you know.
Perfect.
Just to clarify, we're getting a lot of comments saying that there was more gas seized today. That is not any information that you guys have heard yet.
That's something I've heard, but you know, you have all these sorts of isolated incidences where, especially since all these teams of, gas cans of water could have been that too, because there was a lot of that going on. There's all these little isolated incidences, but then we're also getting it, you know, on one hand we're getting it returned. That might be happening, I might be wrong. But everything is in flux. That's why it's strange. Every hour to hour things change. And it just seems, it's the signs of a government, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but that is desperate. It doesn't know what to do, when the obvious thing to do is just come talk to us. Or how about this? Just drop the mandates. Just drop the mandates, drop the passports. Simple. Everywhere else in the world is doing it. I don't understand what they're holding on to this for.
I also want to say that for every one thing you see of a police officer seizing fuel, there are 30 things you don't see of people walking by officers not getting their fuel confiscated.
That's right.
And on the monetary side, one thing I've been observing recently is for every one platform there is to funnel money to this effort to support the truckers, there are 5 different ways money is being transferred that we're not seeing. And I can tell you a few that I've seen firsthand. Tubs collecting cash from people coming up, putting cash in the tub, that tub is getting distributed to the truckers. People going up to truckers, giving them $50 bills. I've seen this quite a bit. I saw a video of 2 kids that got their chore money. They had it in a little plastic bag and they gave it to a trucker. E-transfers, peer-to-peer. gift cards being given to truckers. I can go on. I'm seeing this firsthand. So for every one funding method that we see, there's 5 other ones we don't see that are happening, and it's like the fuel. You can't stop the will of creative Canadians when the mission is this important.
I remember you saying the first presser that you were fully vaccinated, and I'm just wondering how many of the truckers here are fully vaccinated.
I don't know, it's none of my business.
Mhm.
And I guess that's kind of the point. I mean, I know a number of them that have brought up and said, yeah, I'm vaccinated, but that's not the point.
Okay, so there are truckers here who are vaccinated.
Oh, yeah, lots of them. I mean, remember I said it's a very regulated industry?
Right.
So many of them didn't have a choice,
Okay.
right? Especially if you're crossing the border.
Okay.
If you do cross border, you had to be vaccinated, unfortunately.
And how many truckers are actually here in Ottawa? Do you have a rough estimate of how many there are? Not trucks, but truckers.
I don't know. That's the other thing. You brought up an interesting point. A lot of these pickup trucks that you see, depending if you're an owner operator and your insurance agreement, whatever, they can't actually drive their truck unless it's hooked up to a load or it's part of a delivery.
Okay.
So they go in their pickup truck and they drive there. So look at all those cars. There's no trucks there. Like, yeah, they're trucks at home in the lot and they're taking their personal vehicles. So there's a lot of that goes on as well.
Okay.
So yeah, how many? I don't know. I just got wind there is another massive convoy starting from Alberta, northern Alberta, I think, that's making its way here. I don't know if it's another 1,000 or 1,500 trucks that are on their way here.
Okay.
It's very hard to get a sense of scale.
Sorry?
Yeah.
It's very hard to get a sense of scale of unless you literally walk around Ottawa and count and check off the amount of vehicles.
Yeah.
Because there's vehicles that are out of Ottawa that are not being allowed in. There are farmers opening up their fields so that massive groups of trucks can go and create a little base there. On Coventry Road, there's a lot of trucks. So just the sheer scale of a giant semi-truck, it's kind of hard to picture what 50,000 trucks would look like. And certainly there are not 50,000 trucks in the downtown core because it would block off several square kilometers. But there are a lot of people, and there is so many people flooding in. It seems like every weekend this continues to happen. People start coming from bigger and bigger catchment areas to the point where I've gotten a message from a fellow Bitcoiner saying, I'm driving 10 hours to come to Ottawa this weekend. Yeah. And he didn't come last weekend, but he understands what's going on and the importance of this now. So I think we're going to see a bigger and bigger flood into the city, and then backup convoys of groups of people who are coming to join and dig in and to support these truckers and essentially replace the truckers that can no longer stay.
Anything more?
Just one last question. There have been some news reports of children in trucks. I myself have seen some young kids in these trucks. Have you been telling the truckers that maybe, you might want to keep your kids at home in case the situation gets volatile or out of hand?
The thing is, a lot of these trucks, that's kind of their second home. There are a lot of people that take their family on the road.
On the road, okay.
Yeah. There are also people who actually live in their truck. That's very common in the U.S. So, and those trucks I've noticed, a few that I've seen, they have APUs, an auxiliary power unit. And those specific trucks, they can go for weeks and weeks and weeks just because the APU is there just to keep it heated or cooled in the winter and keep the electricity on, right, without running the main engine. So once again, the fake news media is trying to build a narrative that, children are at risk and children, stop. They got to stop with the nonsense. These are not dumb people. People know how to live their lives, and a big part of trucking is pre-planning. And everybody who's come here has pre-planned and contingency plans for that sort of thing. And we also have not only Adopt a Trucker, where we have families all over Ottawa, the Ottawa region, and Quebec that have opened up their homes. You're going to be next, don't worry. They've adopted their homes, opened up their homes and their beds for truckers or their families if they want.
How many homes? Do you know?
Last I saw, I think 1,000.
1,000
if I saw.
Homes in Ottawa have opened up their
in the
families,
Ottawa region and Quebec, it's across the board.
Okay.
I might be wrong with that number, but I remember seeing the database when I was in the command center, and I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Okay.
So we have a lot of that going on. We also have, hotel rooms, and they all know if they need anything, if they need a place to stay, a place to shower, contact us, And most of them are like, yeah, we're good, we're okay, we'll let you know when we need something. So we haven't gotten to that stage yet. Yes.
Just a tiny little nugget to add on that very quick. If you're a parent, I don't know who's a parent here, but if you're a parent and you have a child, would you want them to witness history in a safe environment where they can play with other kids on hay bales and be with you? Or would you rather them be away from you, not being able to interact with other kids, to have to put a mask on, and to not be surrounded constantly by love?
Yeah.
So I think if you have to make that choice as a parent, it seems like it would be an obvious choice, but it makes it hilarious that the media would say it's a bad place for kids. Maybe they should just come and see what's happening. They might change their tone.
So one of the things I've noticed from being an independent journalist myself, is like most people here are, there's spots that they've censored us. Going up and doing our live streams up and down the street. And of course, as you're probably aware, there's a lot of bills that are, there's a lot of bills that are in the Parliament that are going to try to censor us even more. What's your guys' take on what they're doing to try to prevent us from getting the truth out there?
Listen, that's a whole other battle that we're involved in. I mean, freedom is not just limited to I can walk around without a diaper on my face. That also means the government doesn't own the internet. It's not yours. It's the people's. And they're going to learn that lesson very, very harshly, I think, in the political sphere. There's a lot of will from the opposing and opposition powers. They've taken some incorrect views, and they're now starting to realize that, you know what, freedom is pretty popular, especially freedom of speech, right? So I think it starts with this, and then this is going to fuel a lot of momentum in other areas. But right now, we need to focus on the goal of removing the mandates, removing the passports, and then we can go on to some of the next issues. And I don't think it's too long until we're going to be in another election, to be entirely honest. But just a guess.
Sorry, there's some of us that need to go for another engagement.
Okay.
If this Q&A is going longer, can I
leave?
Sneak
Get out of
through?
here.
Okay, thank
Don't
you.
want you anymore. Trouble with that.
Thank you for your time.
No, my
Excuse
pleasure.
me.
My pleasure.
Thanks for being here.
So we know that this has become the lightning rod for the world. The eyes of the world are on Canada, on Parliament Hill, Freedom Convoy. And there are people coming here on the weekends that are wanting to support you guys.
Yeah.
But we also know that there's accommodation problems, that the hotels are being left empty. People can't extend their stays. Reservations are being canceled. What would you suggest for the people that want to come up on the weekends, that don't have a place to stay, that are looking, they're scrambling, but they really want to be up here to support you?
A couple of things. First, plan ahead, as always. I heard the rumors about hotel rooms being bought up by the city, and if that's so, well, there's your tax dollars being used for good purpose, right? I thought they're always on about children and homeless shelters. They're going to waste it on hotels. The nice thing is we live in a wonderful country that has a lot of beautiful small towns with bed and breakfasts and small hotels. If you plan ahead, there's a number of small businesses that have accommodations in the general area across the border that will accommodate you, I'm sure. Just make sure to plan ahead. Plan as though you can't get a hotel room. What are you going to do? A lot of people are going to come here, just for the day. They'll drive early in the morning for 4 hours. They'll stay here till dinner time, and then they'll go home. I mean, I think that's going to be probably the lion's share of people, and then there'll be another wave of people doing the same thing on Sunday. That works too. I think they just the kids want to come and play in the bouncy castle on Parliament Hill, and they want to take pictures of their kids on the bouncy castle, and that's their way of protesting that they want freedom, they want their masks off, and they want their lives back.
Thank you.
So the Ottawa Chief of Police has mentioned that they're working with financial institutions to attack other sources of funding. I know you're going Bitcoin, give, send, go. Do you think there's still a risk of funds being seized or halted?
Well, it's nice that the Ottawa Police Chief is not obsessed with us. This is what police do. They try to crack down on people who crowdfund with donations. He should retire now. Not tomorrow, now. He is a global embarrassment. every opportunity we have to help reform what is done to policing over the past several years, that Ottawa police chief is flushing it down the toilet. And he's well known because he's from Toronto. We all know his background. And he has a very controversial background. You write for the Post-Millennial, got some interesting stuff on his file that he may not want to be public.
I think from the Bitcoin perspective, what that gentleman might not understand is that technologically, they can't stop it, right? If there is a choke point, the choke point will be exercised. But when we have a quorum of signers who have the private keys to be able to authorize transactions, and we don't divulge who those people are except to big donors so that they understand it's in good hands, it's pretty hard. It's not pretty hard, it's impossible. So, that's why we need this as a fail-safe. If there are problems with banking, if there are problems with Give, Send, Go, although things seem to be all good so far, we have a fail-safe. And we have a fail-safe with a community behind it that will see every single attempt that's made to stop this, and will double down on every piece of corruption they witness. And so that's very powerful.
And the other thing is, with this defund the police nonsense, the Ottawa police chief is accelerating it. So if he wants to know why people are want to defund the police, he's the reason. It's such a, anyways.
It's not really much so trying to, I think first, from personal perspective, maybe trying to whittle out the ones that are the problems.
Sure.
Like
are important.
Because I'll say this from the perspective of being on the ground from day one here. There's some good cops out there.
Oh, for sure.
And,
they're all good.
I know there was one I saw the first couple of days. I haven't seen her too much this week at all. But, she was on the corner, smiling, laughing, carrying on with everybody as they walked by her, and
they have been so awesome with us. And it doesn't matter because there's a lot of police detachments here, OPP, Toronto, Peel. They all have people here for whatever reason. But they've been awesome. Sitting and joking with them and hanging like this. The thing is, one of the problems with policing, I'll just tell a little side story. I have somebody in my family who has been a police officer for 25 years, okay? And when he went through police college, he took three classes or 3 courses in, I think it was intelligence and surveillance, if I'm not mistaken. But he had 19 classes in anti-racism policing. This is what we've done to policing. The assumption that everybody is just, you're born race, it's ridiculous, it's nonsense. I think we do need to go back to having real police forces and allowing them, not to be shackled by the political class, because that's what you're seeing. You're seeing, Tom Quiggin refers to as depolicing, completely politicized police forces. But it's not the guys on the front lines. It's the brass at the top. Some of them, not even, this police chief is an example. But there's a lot of good police chiefs as well.
Well, it's like I've heard this said many times, and I'll say it here. No problem. What is a good cop's worst enemy?
Well,
take a guess. What do you think a good cop's worst enemy is?
The bad cop.
Yeah.
Which there are very few of, but they get amplified the most.
Yes. Oh yeah, they do.
So
yeah. But getting them out there, knowing that they're there, gets rid of the problems that people are having with the police, because then those good ones can actually do their jobs.
I'm just hoping this police chief, despite my personal frustration with him, I hope he realizes that you're really on the wrong side of history. You got a lot of good people in your city. The morale of your police is in the toilet, and it's because of the rhetoric, and it's not necessary. You're here for the community to serve and protect, right? So I'm hoping that sort of wisdom will eventually prevail, but we'll see.
Recently, we can see that a lot of people are investigating of the security of the children. What is your thought about
It's
that?
a political tool. So it's the fake news media trying to drum up a narrative, oh, think of the children. They couldn't get us, we're racist, we're white supremacists, we're violent, a danger to the public, all of those things are completely disproven. All right, well, what's the next political movement we can do to try to get the broader public against the truckers? Oh, they're sacrificing children. It was like I just explained, it's completely ridiculous. And I was in a meeting last night with some truckers, and boy, were they offended by that. Like really, really upset by that. Like, as they said, what other evil tactic is the government going to take until they realize we're the citizens they're supposed to represent?
I think it's important to note too that a lot of the tactics that are used by legacy media are very advanced psychological tactics. I have an undergrad in psychology, and humans have this thing called a negativity bias. Bad news is always viewed much more than good news. They know that. They put one piece of bad news about children, everyone is going to put their eyeballs on that, and they're not going to see everything else. So I think we all have to take some responsibility to knowing that humans are vulnerable to a negativity bias, and make a really hard attempt at getting the broad picture and getting a balanced view of what is actually happening, and not just getting zoned into the negative things that get put out.
And just by way of breaking news, another brave Liberal MP has broken ranks with the party.
Wow.
So
He
That's
says
what
there are
winning
more
looks like.
MPs in the caucus who've just had enough
oh, I know that.
and are not going to pass the rest of our mandate like that.
Yeah.
So.
I know that you have Dawi Paula. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correctly.
Kaylee, he's there.
Dagny.
Oh,
Paula?
Dagny, yeah.
Yeah, is it the one she's involved? But she was used to work for the Liberal Party.
Yeah, she was, as she's explained to me, when she was 19 years old, it was the first, political engagement that she ever had. And she's like, I was 19, I didn't know, I'm new to it. Okay, I take her at her word. She's actually been very helpful for me, because I've been going crazy trying to keep everything, under control and whatever, and she reached out. She was actually connected to me through some people in Tamara, and she's been great. She's been great.
And how she's involved in your...
Just helping me with messaging and PR and stuff like that, just because she's got relevant experience, and she's been doing it from a young age. I'm going to be going in for surgery tomorrow, and apparently I'm going to be a little loopy for a couple of days on drugs, and so I just need somebody there that if I'm in bed and I need something done, I can send a message saying, send a message out, do this sort of thing. And everybody needs some sort of infrastructure, and she's actually, she put a lot of effort into coming here. It was a risk to all of us to do it, and I'm not terribly concerned. And I actually said, I responded to Ezra with that, and I said, everybody's been 19 years old and done stupid things.
Thank you.
Good to wrap up.
Yeah.
Thanks for everyone for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for telling the truth.
Thank you.
Ow, I'm in so much pain.